So this is the microfilm room, fully lit, so you can see. The lighting in here is a little bit darker. That's to allow you to use the machines a little bit better, but it does present some problems with the pencils only rule. So in here, because everything in this room is a duplicate just by nature of what it is, you're welcome to use a pen. You can use a pen. In fact, I think you will find actually that when you write with a pencil, it's kind of hard to read. Yeah, you have a question. What's that smell? Yeah. Okay, microfilm is a film product. It's the positive copy or the interpositive copy that's made from a negative. And the majority of microfilm in this room was made in the last 30 years, but quite a lot of it dates from the WPA. Anybody remember what the dates for the WPA project were, the Works Progress Administration?
It would have been after,
Post-Great Depression. It was Franklin Delano Roosevelt's attempt to put everybody back to work. So the Works Progress Administration, they microfilmed newsprint. So you're talking about microfilm that dates from the 1930s and early 1940s. And we would love to replace it, but it's now at this point unbelievably expensive. It would cost us tens of thousands of dollars to duplicate all of that film. So unfortunately what you get instead is smelly microfilm, because the microfilm itself is starting to disintegrate. And so that's that vinegar smell that you are smelling. Someday it'll all be digitized, and you know computers don't smell at all, so we'll lose that notion. But for right now, this is what we've got. So I'm going to take out some that doesn't have that lovely vinegar smell to it, because it actually sort of nauseates me. Microfilm. I usually do this with smaller kids, but I do the whole vocabulary thing of micro means make it smaller and so on and so forth. This is 35 millimeter film. This is the Jackson Herald, so it's a county seat newspaper for virtually a year and a month, between 1910 and 1911. And it's on a little less than half of a roll of microfilm. The newsprint that it would take that we would have to house would be about 2 full drawers worth. So fill this drawer from bottom to top with a flattened out newspaper and fill 2 of those drawers, and you've got what's on this box. And 1910, 1911, that stuff is completely disintegrating. If you thought that scrapbook we just saw was hideous, the newsprint from this time period was printed on toilet paper. So it's literally crumbling when you look at it. You could blow on it and it starts to come apart at the seams. This, hundreds of people can use and use and use and use, and all I really need to look at it is a magnifying glass and a light, which is basically all these fancy, expensive machines are. The ones on this side of the room will make copies, which makes them a little bit fancier, makes them quite a bit more expensive. But basically, that's what they are. It's actually a pretty amazing technique that was developed actually by the, if I understand it correctly, by the military to allow them to put a huge amount of military records in a very small space that would allow people to carry them safely across large distances. But basically they took each opened up flat of newspaper and reduced it to the height of an inch and put hundreds of thousands of those images on a roll of microfilm, and this can be shipped all over the world. We do ship our newspaper microfilm everywhere in the world. We have folks in Australia, we've sent it to Greece, we've sent it to Japan. There are all sorts of people who are interested in what happened in Ohio. And this is so much more versatile, can be used by so many more people than that original roll of original item of microfilm. It's one of the few occasions when I will willingly not encourage somebody to touch the real thing, because quite frankly there's the sawdust that gets created by touching the real thing in this particular case is less an awe factor than looking at something else. But at any rate, that's what the microfilm allows us to do. We've got a little over 50,000 rolls of newspaper microfilm and about 10,000 rolls of government record microfilm. The government record microfilm is going to be things like the census, the federal census, state records like those Ohio Penn registers that we were looking at. When you come in, you would actually look at them on microfilm because the entire series has been microfilmed to allow multiple people to be able to look at it. They're pretty popular records. Another state record group that's incredibly popular, by far the sexiest item in here, are the death certificates at the far end of the room. They run from 1909 to 1953. They have a annual index, and they give, because Ohio is an open public records state, they give all the information about the decedent. So they give the address, occupation, birthplace, birth date of the person who died. They also give parent information. They give place of burial. It'll give cause of death. Go to other states, not Ohio, where the public record laws are a little bit different. California, Florida, you won't know cause of death. You don't get to see that in those states. They've restricted that information from you. But in Ohio, you get to see it all. So that gives you all the gory details, and they're pretty interesting to people who are doing genealogy or who are looking at, once again, those other topics I mentioned. We were interested the other day because somebody was in looking at various gangster related events in Ohio, and once again we got to look up the death certificate for Pretty Boy Floyd, who was from Lima but was killed in Columbiana County because the car that he was escaping in got basically shot up by the federal liquor control agents. So let's see. Any other questions, thoughts, ideas about anything you've seen? No? Everyone ready for lunch?
Yes.
Okay.